Last time rather, I showed you that I could write any arbitrary function phi as a linear combination of the eigenfunctions. So these eigenfunctions are solutions of a given operator. That could be the Hamiltonian, that could be the momentum operator, that could be the position operator, whichever operator. So the eigenfunctions of that particular operator form a complete set. Right? And because they form a complete set, I can define my entire space with these eigenfunctions. For example, as I can define my three-dimensional space with three mutually perpendicular vectors, I can do that over here. So they form a complete set, we say. Now, so think in terms of this. I form a complete set. Okay, let me go back to the 2D analogy again. So I have I and j. I can describe any point, any vector in this two-dimensional space by the combination of I and j vectors, right? Ai plus bj. I can define any vector. But if I have two vectors like this, one vector like this, I can always define in terms of I and j. So let me call this as I prime. And if I have another vector over here, which is at 90 degrees to I prime, I have a j prime vector. I can define the j prime in terms of I and j. Right? But I can also define each and every vector in terms of I prime and j prime. So C1 I prime plus C2 j prime. Yes? Which also means that I can define I and j in terms of I prime and j prime as well. So using the same analogy, I go back to my functional spaces, and say, look, I define phi in terms of psi I. So the complete space is spanned by, for example, all the eigenvectors of the Hamiltonian. There are also the complete space is spanned by all the eigenvectors of position. So let us say that phi is an eigenvector of position. So if I take a linear combination of all phi's, I can write back my psi's. So all this is interchangeable, right? Now coming back to the problem of commutation over there. So when I apply the Hamiltonian on phi, if I apply the Hamiltonian on psi 1, I get back E1. Yes? If I apply on phi, I get sigma of Ci square Ei, which is not one particular energy, which is the sum of all these energies, by each energy multiplied by its weight, that coefficient square. So as I said, that whatever gives most to this particular orbital, the new one, the new phi, that particular psi would be closer in energy to phi. Okay, that is one. Now, let me do a measurement. If the system is in one of the eigenstates, let's say psi k. Okay, so the system is in this eigenstate psi k, and I do an energy measurement. What does it give me? Ek psi k. For certain, the measurement that I have done, so this is like operating is just like a measurement, right? So the measurement of energy, when I do it, I get back the energy Ek. For certain. Right? Now, if on the other hand, the state of the system was in phi, and I do a measurement of energy, then I get back I can't write this actually. This is not an eigenvalue problem. I mean, I'll write that, but you won't get anything out of it. So better I write 5 star to get the energy out. So what I get is Ci square psi I. EI. Sorry. Okay. Now, one of the postulates in quantum mechanics says that the moment you do a measurement, now this is a very important one, okay? There is another thing which I asked you to digest. Okay, there won't be any more. But the moment you measure something, you do a measurement, the state of the system is thrown into one of its eigenstates. Difficult to digest, as I said. Repeat. The moment you do a measurement, the system is thrown into one of its eigenstates. Okay. Meaning is that if I do a measurement on phi, if I do the energy measurement on phi, the system will go to one of its eigenstates. What I'll observe is one of the eigenvalues. Okay. I'll not observe this. If I do one single measurement, then I'll observe, so any of these eigenvalues, E of I. If I do a million or trillion of these measurements, then I'll keep on observing E1 with the probability C1 square, E2 with the probability C2 square, so on and so forth. So finally what I'll observe when I do trillions of measurement is this fellow. But for a single measurement, I'll observe one single eigenvalue. Now this is a postulate of quantum mechanics, which is very difficult to digest, but easily understandable once you understand the language of matrices and vector spaces. But for the moment, since in this course we won't do all that, I just ask you to digest that. The probability of obtaining the particular eigenvalue depends on Ci square. That's all. No, for single measurement, the probability depends on Ci square. That is a probability. Okay. But single measurement can give me any of these eigenvalues. But I don't do a single measurement. I do an ensemble where you have trillions, I don't know, some fraction of moles of molecules. 10 to the power 20 or some such molecules. Yeah? So then I can safely assume that I am the limit of n approaching infinity. And then I get exactly this energy. Okay. Now when I do that, so let's say I am first measuring energy. Okay. So when I first measure energy, I get some eigenvalue Ek. Actually, you can do a psi star on this from the left, and what you get is Ek. Yeah? So you get Ek, that particular energy. And my system is in the state psi k. Let's say that vector is pointing over there. Then I do a measurement of momentum. Now momentum and Hamiltonian commute. Right? One is px, the other is px square. So we are still dealing with a one-dimensional case. Right? So they commute. Px commutes, any operator commutes with itself, definitely. Okay. So px always commutes with px square. So any operator commutes with its square, cube, whatever powers. So if it commutes, I have told you something, which is a theorem in quantum mechanics. We won't prove in this course, but just take it. That If the two operators commute, then they have a common set of eigenfunctions, a complete common set of them, each and every. Okay. So now psi k is this state, right? So if it is already in psi k, and the postulate says that it's going to be thrown into one of the eigenstates. Now it's already there in psi k.